Welcome back to the Wings vs. Rings podcast, episode 2. Today we're going to continue with the record predictions, starting with the AFC North. I'm going to jump right into it with my Ravens record prediction, which is 13-4. It was a little bit of a tough one for me to have them losing only 4 minuscule games. No, I'm just playing, but in some realness, opening up against the Bills, they played Kansas City in Week 4. I had some questions on if they'd sweep the Steelers, and after just looking at all of it, they're just such a hard hitting regular season football team. I think Lamar is undoubtedly, like, not getting into an exact number, a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. I think that their floor this year is truly winning like 12 games. What about you, man? What you got them at?
I got them at 14-3, with losses to their entire division. The actual losses don't necessarily matter to me. The overall number does, and I think every year there's a team that wins 14 games, and this year the team for me is the Ravens. They have an amazing defense. They're amazing against the pass and the run. Their rush game with Lamar and Derrick Henry is some of the best I've ever seen. And the Ravens will always just be good with Lamar at quarterback. Their floor, like you said, it'll always be high with Lamar during the regular season. He's just an amazing player.
No, I completely agree. I think that in as far as the division goes, you said they split with everybody. I think I did
Mhm.
have them sweeping the Browns. It makes sense that you have them like splitting. I know it's divisional games are just kind of hard to predict in any division, but
Yeah.
definitely with them, that's a tough defense. And I mean, the Ravens have struggled with the Steelers too, so that was a tough one for me. But yeah, I just don't feel like there's too much to say about this team. They're good. We all know they're good. They've been good for years, and I just don't see a fall off this year. 13 wins. You have them at 14. I'm gonna
Yeah.
assume safely that they're your number one seed in the
Yeah.
AFC. So
Sure.
then I guess we could just probably move it on right on over to the Bengals.
Yeah. I just wanted to say a quick thing about the Ravens. I I know this is our regular season predictions, but I really do believe that they are gonna break that glass ceiling. I think the Ravens really can go to the Super Bowl this year and really win it. Lamar's gotten better in every year in the playoffs. I I think he's a good quarterback. It's a small sample size, and I think he has a chance to actually do something this year.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to really like just glance past them. I just think we all feel similarly about Baltimore, being that they're really fun to
Mhm.
watch in the regular season, and I agree with you on the sentiment of Lamar being. I don't believe that I don't buy into him being a playoff faller. I guess would you say it that way? Like he just decreases or
Yeah.
diminishes. I don't see it that way. I do agree that it has gotten steadily better, and I would also agree that he would probably continue to do so this year as well, which is why I was kind of just trying to move us on. But yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to be disrespectful. They're good. They're great. It's hard to say a lot about a good team.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and start with the Bengals? What do you got them at?
I got him at 10-7. With losses to like most of the division and some of the AFC North teams. Um, Joe Burrow's an amazing quarterback. I think they're gonna have to win shootouts, but I believe in them. I think they're gonna be elite offensively, and I also don't think they're gonna start slow this season. I think that's a key factor on why they haven't made the playoffs last few years. On top of Joe Burrow's health, but I think they're gonna actually start decent this year, mainly because they're playing in the preseason, and I think teams that play in the preseason and take it seriously don't have to use September as a preseason. And I think they're going to get out the gates at least 500, which is significantly better than they've been ever since Joe Burrow's entered the league.
Yeah, I also have them at 10-7 this year, which I guess if we're putting up like the biggest question marks, I would say that for them, I also know like one of my notes for them was they're gonna win by offense, and I think a lot of people feel that way, but I think we'd also agree that we would when we sat down and did this a year ago, just me and you, off record, just buddies doing our thing. We probably had them around the same, or at least I would assume that I did, and
Yeah.
off of the same type of feeling, like their offense is just high powered enough. So that was definitely a question mark for me. Last year they had just so many close games that they just could not get out of with the win, and I just feel like they can't. It's almost like the reverse of you can't continue to win those games. I just don't see how they could continue to lose them this coming year. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's definitely something to look out for. I do have them at 10-7, but my biggest question marks were if I think they're going to win by offense, how are they going to beat the other high-powered offensive-led teams, or will good quarterbacks with the Bills, Lions, Ravens being on their
Mhm.
schedules? Ravens twice, and that's just. without even saying things about the other teams in their division with the Steelers and the Browns and how good their defenses can be. So it's just definitely a big question mark for me is this team,
Yeah,
but I also have them. I also am predicting them to win 10 games. So I
yeah,
don't know. It was a tough one for me.
yeah. Most of their losses honestly come from those like high-powered offense or consistent offenses. For me, that's where a lot of their losses come in. Like for the Bills, Ravens, Lions, even those teams are gonna have decent defenses and good offenses, or if not great offenses. I think that's where a lot of their losses do come from. I think it comes down to the fact that me and you are both like Joe Burrow believers. It's just that simple. If you don't think Joe Burrow is a top four quarterback, you don't see this team winning 10 games. If you do think he's a top four quarterback or top five, you do see them winning 10 games because he's an elite quarterback. He just is. And I think it
I would
comes down
move
to
the
that.
goalpost a little to 5 because Jalen might top him for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I realized who I was talking to.
yeah, good call, good call. Yeah, no, but I do agree that this is a record prediction that directly it's a direct image of who we believe Joe Burrow is and how he can lead an offense. And when you have T Higgins and Jamar Chase that you're throwing to, I have a lot of belief in that. And I'm a Sidney Brown guy, so I
Mhm.
like Chase Brown because it's his twin brother. So I'm we're probably not super high on them when you have a team going 10-7, but I feel like it's almost safe to assume that we both have them in a wild card slot. But we'll get into the playoff picture
Yeah,
later on. Let's keep it moving. I have the Steelers this year, probably around what you do. I have them at 7-10. I think that this
pretty
is
close.
going to be the year that we see Tomlin's 500, over 500 record cease to exist. I I was looking through this and I felt like one of the things that was on my mind heavily was just how many of the games on their schedule you could kind of have these Rogers related issues or storylines, and I don't even mean just like I guess the way I was looking at it is week one. Like that's immediately a storyline that has Rodgers in the
Mhm.
picture of it. I know the Steelers really try to jump in front of that and say that he wasn't their first choice to try to take kind of direct that narrative to make it look like they were in the driver's seat and not him, like he has been for the past two organizations he's been in, or at least his latter the latter half of his tenure in Green Bay. So I guess I was just kind of noting things down like that, like the stories that would just have to do with Rodgers. Week one against the Jets, they played the Vikings, and there was like I don't know if everyone heard this, but I heard there was a lot of rumblings about him going to Minnesota or wanting to go to Minnesota. So just things of that nature kind of scare me too. I just feel like it takes attention away from winning, and like I said, it's weird because Tomlin does it with worse QB play, but
Mhm.
I just think that this is the year.
I also think this is the year that they finally like they break that record and they go 6-11 for me. I don't see Rodgers and Metcalf as big needle movers to at least even make the playoffs because they can be an 800 team again or 500 team again. They could do it easily. I just think that when you're on the like edge of mediocrity for so long, it's got to fall one way or the other. And I'm betting on them not being good as opposed to them being 11-6 or something. Rodgers, he is a better talent than Russell Wilson at this point, but he might not be more coachable. He might not be more willing to do what Rodgers was doing or what Wilson was doing with
That's a
Arthur
really
Smith.
good point.
And Metcalf, he is a better player than George Pickens, but they play the same type of role. They're downfield, jump ball, go get it receivers. And I think George Pickens might be better at that currently than Metcalf is, honestly. But Metcalf is a better receiver overall. And they really confuse me because it seems like a year they're trying to buy in, win a playoff game, if not more. But then they trade Minka for Jalen Ramsey. Why not just trade for Jalen Ramsey? You didn't have to trade Minka to get that to happen. Why not have both on the team? I don't get that. That really confuses me. Like they're going all in, but also selling at the same time. It doesn't make sense. And like I said, I think if you're teetering on the edge of mediocrity for that long, it's got to go one way or the other. And we obviously we both think this is the year that it breaks, and we both have them being below 500.
Yeah. So I did want to correct myself. They do not play the Vikings this year. They're at the Jets and they also do face Green Bay this year.
Mm,
And I was just kind of thinking like there's so many. I just feel like you can almost connect Rodgers to like so many teams, like the rumblings with even the 49ers because he's from California, if I'm not mistaken. just things like that of that nature. I just feel like some way somehow
It's a
whatever team
distraction.
he's on, yeah, pretty much. It's more than a distraction. He's just it's like he has to make himself the headliner, which is yeah. But I don't want to continue to bash him or anything, but I do have somewhat of a hot take. I've heard other people say it before, so I don't want to necessarily say it's a super hot take. But with what the Steelers do and recycling QBs, and for me personally, having them at that 7 win mark, they could easily that's 1 game away, 2 games away, whatever you want to say, from that like 500 area. I feel like the next QB for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Kyler Murray. It's been a gut feeling for like a year now. I've heard other people say it now too. It just feels like it's almost bound to happen. It's a weird thing. Uh, Bound to happen is probably a bit strong, but that's it. I just feel like it's gonna happen. It's weird, but yeah, we can move on to Cleveland. Why don't you lead off with this one?
Yeah, they're gonna be a bad team, like dumpster fire. I have them 4-13. I know that doesn't seem as bad uh, as some of the teams have been over the last few years, but I just don't see them winning like any game. I have them splitting with the whole division just out of respect, and then beating the Dolphins because the Dolphins go there and like late in the season and it's cold and Tua can't play in the cold. So I have them winning there too. But
Golden segment.
genuinely, I could see them losing way more. Uh, they're a really bad team, and I've always believed if you have more than one quarterback, you don't know you have the position. You have no quarterback. If you're going into a season with 4 or 5 quarterbacks on your roster, and you don't know who's going to start week to week, or you think there's going to be multiple quarterbacks starting throughout the year, you're dead in the water. It's just that simple. I don't have much else to say about them. They're going to be awful.
Yeah, the big thing I have it in all capital letters. Hard to find wins. It really
Mhm.
just is. It's hard to look at a game and line them up on paper against the team, or in my mind line them up against another team and think this Browns team is better. I have them winning only 3 games this year, which was still felt like too many. I feel like they had some good additions, be it free agency or the draft. It's just at this day and age, your team can only go as far as your quarterback can take you, and your quarterback's 40 years old. He's 40. I mean, the starting quarterback for week 1 will be Joe Flacco. And then after that, I'm not sure if any of the guys on that roster scream future starter or even franchise quarterback is what I'm getting at. I don't think they have a franchise QB on their roster. Maybe I'm wrong about Shador. I almost like him more now that he's dropped to the 5th round. Just felt like I feel like the narrative has changed around him, but he's also just still. I don't know. I mean, dropping to the 5th round says enough about him and what NFL teams thought about him. So I feel like that would just support what we're saying, which is you're saying if you have multiple QBs, you have none. I'm saying they just have none.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So I do like some of those pickups, like I was saying, Jerome Baker. I'm a big fan of him, the linebacker position. Tevin Jenkins is a good add at the O line position. I would have been talking about Judkins, Quinshon Judkins, but I think I'll just
Yeah.
move on for now. But I did want to kind of go back a little bit to the Steelers because I did forget to mention one of the big points that I did have, which is when you speak to a Steelers fan, they did right by TJ Watt. So for speaking on behalf of Steelers fans, I'm glad they got that deal done. Whether it makes a lot of sense or not for their future, if his future too, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he got it done. I'm happy they got it done with him, and he's a Steelers great. So it's cool to see him
Yeah.
stay in black and gold.
I love it when a team takes care of their player emotionally, but I do think it's not going to be a good thing in the end. And when he's 32 or 33, it, 40 million is just a lot. Um, I love it for him personally, and I love when teams take care of their players. I just don't know if it's a smart move, especially when they pay more to their defense than any other team in the NFL. They invest so much on that side of the ball. It's like they're almost going the opposite direction of what the rest of the NFL is doing. The rest of the NFL is offense, 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 and the Steelers are just stuck in the mud. And they continue to pay defense, and they continue to double and triple down on that, and it doesn't make sense to me. Draft players, get them cheap, play them, build them up, pay them early, almost like what the Eagles do. Like that's what you have to do in this NFL. You have to find cheap resources on defense and invest in your offense. That's when the money needs to go. And they're going against the grain. And I think that's what's holding them back, honestly, because I think Tomlin is a great head coach. He just needs to get with the times.
No, that's a fantastic point that I definitely don't disagree with it. I don't think that we're gonna be in agreement with all Steelers fans when it comes to that point, but yes.
Mhm.
They in order for the Steelers to be good, they just need to have a down year. And my 7-10 year isn't down enough in my opinion. I could be wrong depending on what they trade or what how aggressive they could get, but as far as just what pick they would earn themselves, it's just not going to be good enough to get that franchise guy, that key guy that can come in and change everything for them. I really don't think it is. So they really just need to hit a wall, and once they hit that wall, I think they can actually start to rebuild.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't waste the rest of TJ's career, but that said, on behalf of Steelers fans, so glad they got it done. But so real quick, let's just go right back through. We have Ravens winning the division. We both had that. You have them at 14 wins, which is
Mhm.
a phenomenal season. I don't think it's outlandish. I obviously only had them a game behind that at 13-4. So very excited to see how they pan out as a team this year. Real quickly, I just want to know for them to have a down year, like for them to just not come close to what we're predicting
Mhm.
in the realm of like possibilities, not talking about injuries, what does it look like for them to have a bad year? Is it Derrick Henry losing a step? Is it the receivers aren't good enough for, or are you just like it's in stone? They're just gonna be good, barring health.
Yeah, of course. Derrick Henry is about to be 31 if he's not already 31 going into this season. He's an older running back, a lot of miles on him. I'm just not willing to make that bet that he's going to hit that wall because people have been since he was 28. And he just keeps proving them wrong. I don't know how he does it. He just keeps going. So I don't see it. I don't see that really taking a step back, at least not substantially. He could be worse than last year. I think the way the Ravens have like a disappointing season or a mediocre season is that their defense doesn't show up. Last year, at the very beginning of the year, they were one of the worst defenses in the league, and things started clicking, and they became one of the best defenses in the league. Now, this is all hypothetical. I don't believe this is going to happen, right? This is just a question of how I think they're going to have a mediocre year. That could be more of the truth. They could be more of a mediocre defense that caught fire and they regress this year substantially. That could be the case. I don't think it is, but that's the only avenue in my mind to them being a mediocre team this year.
Yeah, that's good. And then we both had the Bengals in second place in the division at 10-7 each. I don't think we really have to talk too much about what we think their biggest question mark is. It's pretty obvious that the defense isn't the question mark. We know that is their downfall. Their question is, can their offense keep pace with the other high-powered offenses? Because we don't doubt that their offense can win the games that are against when they're by far the superior offense is what I'm trying to get at. So we can move past them. And then kind of the reverse question for the Steelers is, what will it take for them to flip what they are in our heads? I have them 7 wins, you have them 6, and turn that record, like, just completely mirror it and have them at 10-11 wins. So what would that take?
Rodgers has to be a good quarterback, and Metcalf has to be a substantial upgrade over George Pickens because the rest of the receiver room is just sorry at this point. Their
I'm a
running
Calvin
game,
Austin guy.
yeah, he's cool, but he's not
No, I hear
worth
what
writing
you're
home
getting at.
about.
So
But
just to elaborate a little
mm,
bit, if you could pinpoint some type of number, what are we looking at out of Rodgers that would put him in that category of good? Like, what
I
is
want to
it, protecting
see
the football? Is it airing it out again? Like, what are we looking for?
Rodgers always protects the football, almost to the detriment of the team, honestly. But if he can have 30 plus touchdowns this year, 3,500 plus yards, and Caleb Johnson can be good, like out of the gate, he can be an
Yeah,
elite running back, which I do actually think he can be a very
yeah,
good
we
running back.
definitely should have
That's
mentioned
what it
it
will
earlier.
take.
Yeah, big
That's
fan
what
of
it will
Caleb
take.
myself. I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then the Browns, I really don't. I mean, I feel like the only thing that could make them a lot better than we expect is one of their QBs that aren't going to start week 1, because Flacco is just, he is who he is, and there's no point in talking about him in a future sense. But it would have to be Dylan Gabriel or Shador being just much better than either of us or most people think they are. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. I do think Shadur might have something. Maybe he has something, but I'm very out on Dylan Gabriel. I don't see how he can even be an NFL starter. It's almost ridiculous that he was drafted above Shadur, honestly.
I don't disagree. So yeah, that'll conclude the AFC North predictions.
Now moving on to the NFC North side of things. I have the Lions going 11-6 with notable losses to the Ravens, Eagles, Bucks, and Packers and Chiefs. So all that's all their losses. They're all notable because they're going to be a very good team. I think they're still going to be offensively great because they have so much talent on that side of the ball. I don't see how there's going to be this huge fall off. Their new DC seems to be running an extremely similar scheme to Aaron Glenn, very man heavy. So I see them being similar to last year as well in that regard. And I think they're going to be a lot healthier this year. They were injury riddled to the extreme last year. I think they're going to be a lot healthier. And Dan Campbell is just
We can only hope.
yeah, true. Dan Campbell is just a good head coach, and the culture is set. But I still think they do end up taking a step back because their division has gotten a lot better. And I do think there is going to be a little bit of a coordinator hit, just not to the extent where they don't win the division.
Yeah, that's pretty much my biggest note to their schedule prediction. I also have them at 11 wins, 6 losses, and mostly just because losing both coordinators it's tough. It's tough on a team. I've as an Eagles fan have witnessed my team go through it very recently, and although the year started fine, in record as far as the numbers went, it never looked good. It just never did. So hopefully, for the Lions' sake, it doesn't look like that. However, I do agree that their division got better, but I'm just not sure how much better. Because for me, it's like I think that the losing their coordinators suck, but losing your offensive coordinator who was super highly sought after to a division rival is like extra salt in the wound, I guess. That being said, I don't have the Bears even with a positive record. So I don't know how much I would weigh in them as a division rival, as well as we'll get to it, but I'm not the highest on the Vikings this season. So really it's like just the Packers in my mind that contend for this division. And I could definitely be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I could be mistaken for sure. But I like a lot of the additions they made too. They added some pieces on defense, most notably DJ Reed. Health is a big part of it. I thought that their first round draft pick, the defensive tackle, it's Tyleek. Did I say that correctly? Williams. I think he's a good addition. And yeah, the big part of this one is for sure the health. There's injury riddled, and there's the worst injury luck I think I've ever seen in an NFL season for one team. That was insane. But I also have them at 11 wins, so they do win the division in my eyes.
Yeah. Another note, the reason why I think they are going to struggle this year in comparison to last year, even though they were so banged up and they still found a way to win that many games. Jared Goff is not good when there's interior pressure, and their interior of their O-line has gotten significantly worse with the departures and the retirements.
Yeah, Zeitler, and they lost their center.
Yeah, to retirement, Ragnar.
Yeah.
Obviously, they drafted Tate Ratledge in the second round, who I actually think will be eventually a good guard or center, whatever they have them playing at, because I know they're transitioning him, which is ironic because the center at Georgia is transitioning to guard for the Patriots. They're flipping positions, but it's still going to be a weak point. And Jared Goff just isn't good with pressure in his face. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league when that happens. But I still think they're going to find a way to overcome that and still win 11 games and win the division. It's going to be a lot shakier this year.
Well, I think they got an absolute dog in the slot in Vontae Maddox. No, I'm just kidding. I love my guy. I had to shout him out. He is there right now, at least. DJ Reed is really, yeah. DJ Reed was really their big ad this offseason, along with Derek Barnes, the linebacker. They both signed 3-year deals, so I think that those are good moves. And you get Hutch back. Hopefully, he's much healthier than last year. That was devastating. That was one of the most sickening injuries I've seen in a long time. I just don't know what to expect out of them. I think a lot of the media has me doubting who they are. So it's a bit of a weird one, but I've heard cool things out of the camp of how they're using Gibbs. Not a fan of his number change. That's a conversation for a different time, but I heard that they might be lining him up in the slot, putting him in motion a lot more often, and with the guy's speed and versatility like he has, finding more ways to get the ball in his hands is always going to be a good thing. So I'm excited to see how their offense runs. I am still kind of like, even when healthy and with these additions, I am still questioning their defense. And like you mentioned, that interior O line is definitely a question mark. Losing Ragnow, who was a really good center. Can't ever say the best because Kelsey better, but really good. And then Zeitler is in Tennessee now, correct? So losing him, that's another big deal. But yeah, 11-6 is still not something to scoff at. So
It's a good team. It's a good team. All right, well, let's move on to the Packers. I have them going 10-7 with losses to the Eagles, Commanders, and most of the division, and the Ravens. I just think 10-7 is a good record for the Packers because that's what they are. They're just good. They have a good quarterback in Jordan Love, in my opinion. I think Golden can be a wide receiver one for this team. Josh Jacobs is a good running back. They have a good head coach, and they're a consistent team. They're one of the most consistent teams of my lifetime, and I don't see why they're not going to be consistent this year. They're the most 10-7 team I've ever seen in my life.
we like this record because I also have them at 10-7.
Yeah.
They their notable additions to me was in the draft. They were in the draft. I loved what they did getting Golden, mostly because I was afraid he was going to be a Cowboy. So now that he's not, it's like I get to not necessarily root for him. You know, we saw the Packers in the playoffs last year, so I'm not gonna say I'm rooting for him, but I don't have to hate him, so that's great. And I also thought that picking up the offensive tackle, the Anthony Belton, correct,
Yeah.
in the second round, I thought that was a pretty big pickup as well. I'm also a fan of their round 3 pickup, which was another wide receiver, Savion Williams. I like that
Yeah.
one as well. So I thought they had a really good start to their draft. They brought in Nate Hobbs, assuming that is supposed to be Jair's replacement. They also signed a guard, so I felt like they were doing the right things as far as the things that they needed to address last season. Their biggest question mark has been, do they have a wide receiver one? Like you hit on, I'm in agreement. I do think Matthew Golden could fill that hole. I don't think it's necessarily a hole anymore because he's there. Losing Jair is notable. I don't know what he is as a talent now, but he was just such a he was a long-standing player there. You know, I'm sure he had some type of veteran leadership and something to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he was a big deal in the locker room to the players, that type of situation. My biggest thing for me is I really just think the Lions are better. I just think the Lions are better. I like everything about the Lions more.
I agree.
Minus maybe quarterback, but that's mostly an age thing. So maybe not
Yeah.
mostly, but you get what I'm getting at. Is outside of Jordan Love, the Lions to me they're better going down that list in every way. And kind of like
Yes.
you said, the Packers. It's not even that they're bad; they're just not as good. But they're good. Josh Jacobs is fantastic. He's just not Jahmyr Gibbs in my eyes. I think Gibbs is he's amazing. He's just a step up, you know. So,
Yes.
but yeah, I'm gonna moving on to the Bears. Unless you have anything else to add on the Packers before I.
No, they're the most 10-7 team ever. I'm
So,
good.
all right, so on to Chicago. Like I said, I didn't have them winning double-digit games. I didn't even have them above 500, just below it actually at 8-9. I think adding Ben Johnson is huge, even an even bigger impact because he comes from a division rival. I think he was the most sought after name this coaching cycle. In my opinion, at least he was. And a big deal to me is pairing your young quarterback with an offensive minded head coach. We've talked about this. I think it's the best thing you can do when you're going that direction as a franchise, when you want to have that franchise QB, which is what they want Caleb Williams to be. It's what we want Caleb Williams to be. And then you pair him with an offensive minded head coach. That way, when they rip the OC, it don't matter too much. It matters a lot less. So I thought that was big, but even more so, I really liked their offseason. I really did. Maybe not defensively as much as offensively, but getting Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, as well as investing a second round pick at the offensive line position, protecting Caleb Williams it's big. And they did more than just protect him. They started to try to surround him with even more talent, which I'm sure you're going to get to in their other first and second round picks. So I'm gonna just focus on a little bit of what I think you're down on them, which is defense. I think they have some big signings. They got an edge from from Indianapolis that from what I've read, I personally don't know, but from what I've read, he could be a fantastic addition and play the other side of the D line across from Montez or opposite of Montez and be what they just actually more pressure than they were getting from that role last year, as well as adding to the interior D line with Shamar Turner and Grady Jarrett. I'm excited. I'm excited to see them step up. I'm a TJ Edwards guy. He's still there. I don't mind their linebackers, safeties, DBs. Maybe that's a question mark. I'm I like Jalen Johnson. It's weird because as I say all this, I'm like I have so many positive things to say, but really I still see this as a building block year in which they just sit at 8 and 9. So I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna give it over to you.
This is actually our first difference so far through these two divisions. I have the Vikings at 3 and the Bears at 4, but I'm
That's
not
cool.
going to start talking about the Vikings right now. I'll keep it on the Bears. I have them going 8 and 9 as well. I think Caleb Williams struggles early. This is a new offensive system, new head coach, a lot of stuff going on. He needs to get things together, and I think it's going to take him a few weeks. This is the first year of a head coach who's unproven, so we don't know what's going on there. I'm not willing to bet on him yet. Like you said, this is a building year for them, very much so. Luther Burden, I thought was their first round talent at receiver. They got him in the second. That's a great receiving room. And then you add Colston Loveland at tight end, who I think is one of the best tight ends to come out of the draft in quite some time. It seems like they've been turning out tight ends recently. When you look at Brock Bowers and who I thought Kyle Pitts was going to be, I think he's not as good as Brock Bowers, but he's a great prospect. He's an amazing tight end. Yeah, so I like that for Caleb Williams. Like tight end could be the safety net, and he's an awesome one. But their defense doesn't blow me away, like you were saying. I'm not sold on their defense in terms of being elite. They're the middle of the road to me. They're closer to 16 or 13th best defense in the NFL, which won't lose you games. It's just I'm not like sold on them like a lot of people would suggest because they're the Bears. They think they're supposed to be this amazing defense. It, they're just not to me. The additions help, but they had a lot of pressures last year. They were decent last year. I do like their secondary, and their linebackers are good too. It's just they're just good across the board, and that results in a mediocre defense, which again isn't a bad thing. It's a building block year. It's just I'm not
Yeah,
blown
no,
away by it.
and I get where you're coming from. I 8 and 9 doesn't feel like as big of a step up as people are going to want to see out of the Bears, or that's what I have. That's where I'm predicting them to go at least. So I think looking back at the end of the season, if they're 8 and 9, I'm not sure how people are going to view this year, especially from a Caleb Williams standpoint. I really do see a world where they can win double digit games. This is
Oh
this
yeah,
would be my hot take for this division. I honestly, if I had to pick a team second most likely in my mind to win the division, it's them. And I know that makes no sense because I don't even have them second, but I just feel like if everything goes correctly and all the additions click, and Ben Johnson's who I think Ben Johnson is, and Caleb Williams is who I thought Caleb Williams was, I really think this team could be great. But I guess I'm just sipping a little bit of that Bears Kool-Aid.
and that makes sense because the reason why I have the Packers at 10-7 and you do, they don't have the blue chip talent that the Lions do. And the blue chip talent that the Bears might have might surpass the Packers. Because again, the Packers, in my opinion, have almost none across the board. And the Bears might have some. So I could see a world where they win more than 8 games because they're in a great division. That's really what it comes down to me for why they're winning only 8 games this year. If you put them in the AFC South, they could be a playoff team. I
Uh,
believe so.
no, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
they're just in a tough division. They're just in a very tough division, and they're a middle of the road team as a result. And that's nothing to scoff at. It's just it's hard to
You
beat
meant
these teams.
NFC? You said NFC South or AFC South? I'm sorry.
Sorry,
NFC South?
NFC South.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
that's
what I
what I
meant.
thought. Yeah, I was like making sure, just double checking. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, they could easily be a playoff team in that division. They could win that division. It's just the
Sure.
division they're in is holding them back in a sense. Let's just. You got anything else to say about the Bears?
Just to double check, you said that you have them last place, but we have them at the same record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that means that the next team being Minnesota for me, uh, has to be our biggest difference so far,
Yeah,
as far as
true.
record goes. So I only have them winning 7 games. I am gonna start this off just because I do want to get ahead of it. I'm This is to me the biggest question mark, or like the thing you could question most about my predictions so far is this one. For them to have won 14 games last year with Darnold, or 13, however, it was 14, right? 14 games.
Yeah, 14.
To win 14 games with Sam Darnold, not to sit here and bash him and say he's bad, but that says a lot about your culture, your play calling, your head coach. And I like KOC. I think he's fantastic. I like him a lot. I think he's a great play caller. His schemes are always super super good, and he uses these wide receivers properly, and that's what I like to see. So I think he's not the issue in my mind. To me, it's they have a rookie quarterback. I think that last year what they did was put off a development year. And they kind of pushed it back, and they played great. So this sounds so weird, but there's a reason that they hit a wall, and I think that reason is going to be seen this year in an even brighter fashion, because Darnold's like flaws were hidden for so long last season until the end of the year when they had to start playing these higher end teams and these. I just feel like we saw his flaws, so not to say that they were hidden, but it took us even longer to see like, okay, he can't get them over the hump. It's impossible, which is why they didn't bring him back. And I think that they're going to kind of experience something a little bit similar this season with McCarthy. With McCarthy, he's kind of a rookie. I know it's year two, but he didn't have any actual snaps last year, so yeah, I have them having their down year, 7 wins. But I really think that if McCarthy's who they think McCarthy is, the next year could be a much much better season for them. So I'll swing it over to you.
I have the Vikings going 10-7. I think KOC is a great head coach. He might be the best head coach in this division. And I believe in KOC enough to think that he sees enough talent in McCarthy for them to not fall off the map completely. I think they still might be a borderline playoff team at 10-7. I think their weapons are some of the best in the NFL, especially when you have Justin Jefferson, who is the best wide receiver in the NFL, hands down.
Yeah,
To me, he's at the top of that mountain. And Brian Flores, I know it's a bit of like homerism. I love anyone who's a Patriot that is succeeding, a former Patriot, but he genuinely is one of the best defensive minds in the NFL. He has this team play well above their talent level every year. And when you have an elite defense and you have a good O-line, you have good running backs, you have great receivers. If your only question mark is, can this rookie quarterback produce, or rookie in terms of the NFL, right? Not actually year, but if that's your only question, and KOC believes in him and believes in him enough to get rid of a quarterback that just went 14-3, I think I have to rock with him this year and buy some of that stock. I think they're going to go 10-7, and I think it is still going to be a building year, like you're saying. I just think they're going to be a good team. They're going to build, and then next year maybe they take off again. But McCarthy, to me, he won a natty. He's very coachable, and KLC believes in him, so I'm going to believe in him.
Yeah, I mean, it's well said. It's well said. I have them in fourth place in the division, and it was hard for me to do that. I do have some Vikings affinity for my own personal reasons, so I did want to kind of put them up there. I'm a Jefferson fan. A little bit embarrassing to admit, but I cried real tears the day we drafted Rager over Jefferson. That is true. I had no idea Jefferson would be this great, but I was just so high on him that it hurt me. So I'm a huge Jefferson fan. It's just rookie quarterbacks, man. 7 wins doesn't feel rude to a rookie quarterback, but it does when he's replacing somebody like who's Sam Darnold. I just don't believe in Sam Darnold long term. I think JJ McCarthy has the ability to be their long term guy, their franchise quarterback for sure. So it was hard for me to sit on 7 wins. But I got to go with my gut. And my gut just says that this is going to be that year that they kind of have to, they got to build up JJ. They got to he's got to build rapport with his teammates and get plugged into the system and learn how to play within KOC's system. He's used to such a run heavy offense with Michigan, right? Like, so I just think that it's an adjustment period, and we're going to see that this year. That's what I believe.
My main thing is, if he was able to get Sam Darnold to succeed, he can get McCarthy to succeed. McCarthy has just as much talent in my mind. Now, Sam Darnold is a veteran. He was with Kyle Shanahan. Maybe that unlocked him more so than I'm giving credit to it. And I actually do think Sam Darnold is a pretty decent quarterback at this point. There was a lot of things last year where it wasn't just KOC that was enabling him. Like he was actually making some elite level throws and playing against the pressure, and it was just good last year. So I think maybe it's just because they drafted a first round pick in him and they couldn't get over that sunk cost fallacy. I think the KOC might think McCarthy's better, at least in the long term. And I do think this will be a building block year, but to go from 14 wins, I knocked them down substantially from 14 wins to 10. I feel very comfortable with them being a 10-17. Honestly, I think they're going to be a fun team this
Yeah,
year.
well, definitely, this is definitely our biggest discrepancy so far, and I think for good reason. When a team wins 14 games and really doesn't move on from a lot of the roster, it's not a lot of roster overhaul. I could see why you got to the number you got to. However, for me, in my opinion, it's just more so like their roster switch is at the most important position on the field, and I just think it's going to be a year of adjustment. Not to say that I don't believe in McCarthy long term. I really it almost kind of it's kind of contradicting to what I said when we were talking about the Lions. But on the other side of it, I said that I can't really say what you said, which is that their division is great because I have two teams that aren't even 500. But I think that part of that is, and maybe I kind of missed that myself, is because they are going to be playing other teams that I do believe in. So yeah, I guess that I would definitely factor that in. But if we went back down the list, it's Lions at the top. We're in agreement there. 11 wins each is what we're predicting. And then going to the second team, we're also in agreement with the 10-7 Packers. The most, we're gonna just start calling them the most 10-7 team of all time. The Green Bay 10-7ers. And then I have the Bears in third. You have the Vikings in third.
Yeah.
But we both have them at 8-9. And I have the Vikings losing the division, last place, 7 wins, and you have a flipped record of 10-7, which is probably more predicted. Like
It's probably
I feel
closer to
like,
the ceiling.
yeah,
It's
it's.
probably closer to the ceiling.
I'm not sure how to word that, but I feel like it's also more like closer to the consensus feeling on them. But we're like we said, we are fans of KOC. Really am. Kevin O'Connell is great, so I do believe in him, and I believe in a lot of what you're saying. But I'm gonna have to ride with what I think, which is it's not going to be an above 500 season.
All right. Well, that wraps up our predictions for the AFC and NFC North. Follow us on all of our socials. It's Wings versus Rings everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. Wings versus Rings. Thank you guys for listening, and have a good one.